Hi there, everyone. It's Nicolle Wallace. You're watching a special TV edition of The Best People. When we ask our audience who they want to see more of, one name comes up again and again, loud and clear. Our friend Tim Miller. He is a fellow ex-Republican and the sharp and witty host of the Bulwark podcast. So this is The Best People, and this is Tim Miller. Tim Miller, thank you for being here. Did you know that? Did you
No,
even
I
know
did
that?
not know that.
Yeah.
Nobody, the suits never tell me anything about
They
my
don't-
Q score.
I mean, this may be like this may be leaked classified information, but I know it to be true, corroborated.
Okay. Well, I love to hear that. I appreciate the viewers. And it's true, at least anecdotally, this is not math, but on the street or at Whole Foods or whatever, at the kids' basketball game, if somebody's like, "Hey, I love watching you," the next words are always with Nicolle. Every time. It's never, no offense to any of the others.
Let's dive in right there. I mean, I loved your description of the manosphere and the different layers of the Trump coalition. Tell me right now, I think we're kind of maybe in the second inning of the Epstein story. So like for where we are right now, how would you define the Trump coalition?
Yeah. I mean, look, he has this core base of support that everybody always talks about because it's so visible, right? So in our face, they go to the rallies, they're trolls in our mentions, right? And so, and it's been the key to his political power, right? So there's always like this, I feel like we're on, it's like, oh, is this going to break through at the base? Is this going to crack them? And I just am kind of the working view that nothing is ever going to crack them. And that we're going to be decades from now, we're going to be in the old folks home together, Nicolle, and there's going to be people long after Trump's passed, there'll be people with little, down the hallway with little, venerations to him. And like, I just think that's just unfortunately like our reality. So like, I don't even, it's, whatever. It's important to hear them and know what's happening with them, but like, that's not where the crack could be, right? And I think that there are two other kind of groups that we talk about. One is, I do think that there is kind of an evolving, like mutated MAGA, right? That is younger, and that they listen to Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson's podcast, and I think some of those folks have some doubts. I don't know. Did you watch any of the Mehdi Hassan thing where he was like Mehdi Hassan versus 20 far right conservatives? It's called Jubilee, and it's like fight porn. It's like argument porn. Anyway, and Mehdi goes on, and they found like these 20 kids who define themselves as far right conservative. It's funny. A couple of times they said they didn't vote for Trump, like because they're like not part of the Trump base. Like they're spinning off into a whole new world that's even scarier, and we can maybe talk about that. So that's a pretty small group. The main group that I think is important to think about in this whole Epstein case is like the folks that listen to Joe Rogan, as you mentioned, these sort of manosphere guys who aren't ideological. Many of them vote for Democrats.
Yeah.
They're not Christians. They're not weekly churchgoers in any meaningful sense, right? Like they got attracted to Trump because he was like a finger in the eye to the establishment. They liked the anti-woke stuff, right? Like those guys. And they were very important to him because for every one of us, you and me, he lost, Nicolle. Like he picked up one of them, right? Like that kind of offset his losses with these college-educated suburban types. And so they're important. And here's the thing about them. A lot of liberals want to like look at them and say they're bad, wag their finger at them and stuff. But if you listen to their interviews, like if you listen to Rogan with that, I'm going to butcher his name, the guy from Texas, James Tallarico, right? If you listen to that, Rogan, you can tell, right? And this Theo Von lately talking about Gaza. These guys don't want to be evil. They're not Stephen Miller, right? Like they might say things inappropriately, and they might do things that you would tell your teenage son that you wish they wouldn't do, right? Like they're not perfect men, but like they don't want to be evil. They're not on board with the just like randomly killing the poorest children in the world and like like masked men grabbing people off the streets, and they also really believe that something weird happened with Jeffrey Epstein and that people should get to the bottom of it, and that it's bad that people are covering it up. And so I think that Trump is very vulnerable with like that part of, whether you call it his base or his coalition, probably better, his coalition. And like you're really seeing the cracks develop on that over the past couple of weeks.
Well, I agree with you, and I think I've started listening to. I mean, I've covered Joe Rogan initially reluctantly, now more with wonder, and mostly because of his power in the culture and in the space. And he seems to have landed in a place where he's flirting with the reality that cruelty isn't manly. And he's one of the earliest defectors on rounding up people at work. It's actually one of the lowest polled deportations that Trump does. I think I know over 80% of Americans in a Pew poll said they didn't want people deported who have a job. It's even higher if they're married to someone or they have American-born kids. I think it's like 85 and 90%. But
Right.
people with jobs were not supposed to be in the minds of some of the coalition. Again, not MAGA. I think MAGA was for throwing everybody out. We're not supposed to be targeted. They were supposed to go for the worst of worst. And I wonder what your thoughts are about the arbiters of Trump over Harris, who are now on board and culpable, responsible for putting together a winning coalition for Donald Trump that is engaged in some of the most cruel and sadistic practices, especially when it comes to deportations.
Yeah. And it's depressing, right? Like, because it's like was easy for all of us to see that it was going to be their plan. They had
Mhm.
it on the placards, and Stephen Miller, and it was part of the plan last time they did the child separations. We already did all this once before. They did the Muslim
Yeah.
ban, and so it's like, they were I don't even know. Sometimes that we give too much credit to like the strategists. Like I don't even really know if it was strategy. It was
Yeah,
this
me
kind of
neither.
gut instinct. It was just like it was this combination of Stephen Miller was able to animate that nativist base, which is real, and there are a lot of people, and they kind of glommed onto it these other guys who were attracted to this for various other things, whether it was like macho signaling or that they didn't like that they felt like white men were being pushed aside because of and there are a million things you could say. And so it's annoying that so quickly so
Mhm.
many of them were like, whoa, we didn't sign up for this, when in fact they did sign up for this.
Mhm.
But I think that we are where we are, and politically speaking, I just think it's important for the Democrats to recognize that a lot of these guys were voting for them 10 years ago.
Mhm.
Some of them are
Yeah.
too young to vote, and a lot of them are don't it's not human nature. It is aberrant that Stephen Miller self-identifies as a bad person. I really think he does. I think Stephen Miller likes being the villain. I really
Right.
do.
Right. It's his brand. Yeah.
Yeah, that's not normal. A lot of people
Mhm.
don't like that, and I think it'd be a
Yeah.
huge mistake to just be like, "Oh, screw you guys! You signed up for this. You knew it. And, now you're trying to
Yeah.
save face." I don't. I think that they might have gotten snowed, and that
Yeah.
they thought they,
Totally. Totally.
and that they really don't see themselves as bad people, and that the worse Trump is, the more they're like, I don't know. And maybe that doesn't mean they're ever Democrats. Maybe it just means that they're like, I'm going to go back to focusing on Epstein and MMA and other
Yeah, and
weird
the pyramids.
conspiracies.
They're into the
The
pyramids.
pyramids, yeah. Who built the
uh,
pyramids? Why can't we
l-
build the pyramids anymore? That's great. Talk about the pyramids. Hang out. That's great. That's a
like
safe place for you.
it's
You know?
amazing. I mean, let's put a pin in the Democrats for a second because
Yeah.
I,
Okay.
I
Sure.
wanna. I feel like you understand this piece of the coalition, and I feel like this is if you start reverse engineering how the pro-democracy movement starts winning elections in decisive ways so that we're not teetering on the edge of autocracy and democracy every 2 to 4 years.
Yeah.
It feels like engaging the people who wanted. This is the
Yeah.
ambient noise in my house.
Yeah.
Welcome,
Sure.
welcome to
Maybe.
to the Wallace house.
Should we?
Uh,
Should we bring along
well,
her
I
on
think that's
board?
why she's pissed.
Yeah.
I don't know, we'll bring her up for a guest appearance in a minute. But I wonder how you would reverse engineer the piece of it that attracted them because it was anti-elitism. It was feeling parented during COVID, right? I mean, there were people
Yeah.
that didn't want to be told what to take in terms of
Yes.
a vaccine. They didn't want to be told to wear a mask. They didn't want to be told to stay at home. There's a whole unprocessed piece of rage and grief that, over COVID that neither party has dealt with. And then there's sort of the rejection of political correctness, which is so old and tired. I didn't realize how much of it was still in the system. But if you reverse engineer that, who do you see on the Democratic side that doesn't have those problems politically?
I kind of feel like it has to be somebody that just wasn't involved in all those fights, right? And so it's not as if they were maybe on the side of the bros in the fights, but they just were on the sidelines altogether. I just think
Hmm.
about this, Nicole. I mean, as weird as this moment is, there's some things that have just been true for a while in our politics, and I think that maybe we in the pro democracy movement and the Democratic Party certainly just didn't embrace the lessons enough. But you go back, and with the exception of W, basically, who you worked for, you go back to Clinton, 92. What was Clinton's appeal? He was like totally outside of the
Hmm.
Democratic establishment world. He's this governor
Hmm.
from Arkansas. Different. Okay, Obama, like might seem like an establishment guy now, but he comes up. He's this weird name. He was against the Iraq War, and he was
Hmm.
outside. He was going against Clinton,
Yeah.
and then Trump, obviously, right? And then kind of Biden wins sort of by accident, this weird way, and then Trump wins again. What were people telling us this whole time? Sarah Longwaller says about the focus groups. What do people say always? It's like, I don't want a typical politician. I don't want the establishment. I think that they, don't have my best interest in heart. Some of that's not fair, and we can go win that fight. We can go fight that fight. But like, reality is just what it is. And I think that American people have been telling us over and over again that they don't want the same old. They want somebody that's gonna shake
Yeah.
things up. And I
Yeah.
think by providing Clinton and then Biden and then Biden's vice president, it just felt very status quo, and people didn't want status quo. And so I kind of feel like, I don't know. I'm just picking a name out of the hat, but like Wes Moore, as the governor of
Yeah.
Maryland, is outside of that. Like he was
Yeah.
governor a little bit during that time. He's not in those fights. He's kind of a guy's guy. He can talk about how he didn't think that some of this stuff was silly and some of it wasn't, right? Like,
Yeah.
or maybe somebody else. I just like you
Yeah.
leave somebody out if you start naming names, but I just think like a fresh person that can come in and say, look, I, I have some contriques about how the Democrats were doing things. I mean, I really
Yeah.
don't like Trump, and I think that look, he sold you a bill of goods, and he
Right.
said he was outsider, and then what did he do? He protected billionaire pedophiles and gave a tax cut to the rich, right? Like that's an easy talking point.
Right.
So to me, it's like I look at the Bill Clinton and Obama models, and as like both of those people came out of basically nowhere. I mean, Obama was a senator for 2 years.
Yeah. Well, and
Clinton was
they
a
and they
governor of a small
conquered.
state.
And to your point, they conquered something, right? So
Yeah,
Obama conquers the Clinton machine. And so you're not telling a story of how you're strong. You've shown it.
right.
And Trump is not, because I mean, I still think that the old thing about politics, that people want someone who is a strong leader and understands their problems. And in a way that everyone has been blind to, they see Trump that way. They
Yes.
see his base sees the bullying as strength, and they see that they perceive the media and elites to hate him, and they align themselves with him. And that's why the gold toilets and the supermodel wife and the jet have never hurt him politically, because they see
Yes.
him as sort of rating high on those two axes of political measure. Do you think those measures still hold?
I do. Yeah. And I think and it's also, and again, it's weird. I hate to use I feel like vibes is such an used word these days, but like, he gave off the vibe of to them of like signaling that he cared about them with the stupid stunts, the stuff that we look at
Yeah,
and like, come on, it's like he's at McDonald's and like
right.
whatever, but like he's at the rally and he's with and he says, I'm going after those guys, and and even though he didn't do any of it, like the feeling was that he was more on the side of the regular guy, and it's hard to you can say you are if you're a Democrat, right? But like even and you can be earnest, right? I can think of a lot of really earnest Democrats who are in
Yeah.
Washington who care about policy, who care about regular people, but if they go out and they say, I want to raise the minimum wage and I care about here's a white paper for how to help people, but they give off an energy of, well, no, you're just kind of a typical politician, right? And that's
Mhm.
silly. And like, should that be how our politics works? Probably not, but it is. And so I just think that's the challenge, right? How do you like recapture that feeling of another way of saying I care about you is by saying like I'm going to fight the things that are preventing you from living the kind of life that you wish, right? Like I'm going to be on your side, right, mate? I'm going to be on your side.
Mhm.
And you can't be on Washington's side and on their side, right? And like that has like been this challenge, and at some point it's part of it's because Trump's been such an attack on Washington. It's like natural and right to want to defend it, right? To say, wait a minute, the FBI is not corrupt, our democratic system isn't corrupt, right?
Mhm.
Like our, whatever. Like, and so you find yourself always defending these things that people don't feel are serving them. It's tougher than it sounds like, but I just think that's like the big challenge for reaching these people is just credibly feeling like you're on their side against, whatever are the forces that have, been favoring people that have access or people that are well off.
I feel like you have articulated why not taking our eye off the human beings impacted by the deportations matters. You say it's being done in our name as Americans, not regardless of who we voted for. It is being done in our name, and you could lay that over USAID, right? Our name, the United States of America, was on all those bags of
Oh,
food
that's
and
fine.
meals ready to eat and the rice and the peanut paste. But on deportations specifically, if you play this forward, what is the message that you take to the country in 4 years about how to clear our name?
Yeah. Um, It's another tough one, right? Because you have to balance these things at the same time, which is people were upset about the number of people coming to the country and how haphazard it was. And you could see it in cities. I mean, I always say, like, whenever a Democrat tries to dismiss it to me, and I'm like as liberal on immigration as I can get. I mean, I'm just totally like a Statue of Liberty. Give us your tired, your poor person. Like, that's
Me
was even
too.
when I was a Republican, that was always my view. That was a lot of
Me
Republicans'
too.
views back then.
Yeah,
Anyway.
I think that was George Bush's view. I
Yeah,
think in his heart he
exactly. And
believed in
right.
amnesty. Yeah.
Um, but like, my family's in Denver. And you can see it in Denver, like on the street. Like there were so many Venezuelan asylees, asking to wash windows and stuff. Right? Like it was mean, and you can see it in schools, right? If you go to public schools in certain neighborhoods, you're like the number of young people who don't speak English coming to the schools was becoming a burden, right? So like there were like some of that was real, right? So the Democrats need to simultaneously say, okay, we learned our lesson. This is real. We want to have, we're going to deal with this, but also we need to take back what is America about America and what is our what
Mhm.
is and our shared humanity, and we can't become and nobody wants us to become a immigration police state. Well, a few people, and Stephen Miller does, but like that now circling back to these bros, I do think that resonates with a broad part of the country, right? Like, we want to have laws, we want to have rules, but we don't want to be a police state where masked men are grabbing people off the street like this is China or Stalin's Russia. Like, that's not what people want. And I think also, I was talking to Chris Murphy about this morning. Also, when it comes to USAID stuff, yeah, it's not that popular of an issue, but on a basic level, it's like, can we just do a little bit with our blessings as a country to make sure that the most vulnerable 3-year-olds in the world don't starve? Like, can we just offer a little bit like this last budget that we cut 100 million from UNICEF and put in 300 million to to secure Mar-a-Lago. It's like, can we balance that out? Can we spend as much money on security for our elites in this country as we do making sure that the poorest kids in the world don't starve? And can we make sure that people fleeing oppression and who want to come here and who do it the right way can get here and not be afraid that they're going to be nabbed out of their workplace by some guy in a mask and put in the back of a van and sent to the Everglades to be tormented by Ron DeSantis? I I think that you can kind of do this in a patriotic kind of American way. Like you know, people got really sick of "We Are Better Than This" because it kind of has demonstrated maybe we're not better than this, but like we aspire to be, like,
Yeah.
and we can be, and people should have the ability to live free, and we don't. There's almost like a "don't tread on me" element to this, and I don't know. All of that is a little bit of a ramble, but like there's something in all of that that I think would resonate with people beyond the beyond the folks who voted for Kamala. There are other folks that do still believe that. And I think that's honestly going to be the big fight because I think no matter what happens next with the Republicans, they're going to be nationalist, close borders. Like that's where the party's moving, blood and soil, USA.
Yeah.
And so you got to fight that with a different vision of what the American flag is, right? Something that's a little bit more um, about everybody's rights, to live free without fear of the masked men.
It's sort of the old, like, New Hampshire Republican, strain, right? In the
Yeah,
primary to win there, it's like a different kind of Republican than you have to appeal to in Iowa, right? And
yeah,
it's sort of that, which isn't really anywhere in the Republican Party anymore. I mean, they want to leave measles unchecked. They want to, mix the soda themselves, and people, like, I'm for a healthier food supply, but
yeah.
you don't have to take a measles shot and you are going to prescribe what's in all the food. I mean, there's no intellectual consistency. And I wonder what piece of that is on us as people with platforms.
Yeah, I mean, some of it, and I think our challenge something I think about a lot as somebody with the platform is like, okay, how do you get to, how can you either say something in a way or go into a space where you can reach people that are, that would want to hear that message, that are open to hearing that message, right? It's not about going to argue with on some mega platform with some guy, performative
Mhm.
arguing. It's not that. It's about how do you reach people that are open to hearing that message that just either weren't hearing it or weren't hearing it the right way or it didn't break through to them, because like that is the big challenge that we face, right? Like, is that our polarization now has gotten based around like education level and engagement level, right? And so it's
Mhm.
like, okay, well, we can scream it till we're blue in the face to the people that are already kind of in our bubble. How do you and I think the challenge is less about breaking into the other bubble. Like I said, I think that they've got a lock on it, but it's getting to people that are less engaged. I don't know, and that's what I think about what you're doing now. Like I think about the dot. Like I've been listening to some of your other ones, and like the Doc Rivers one lands with me because it's like that conversation was interesting because it's like, who is he talking to? Like he's coaching. Like the NBA players are so young now because like they're only in college for a
Yeah.
year. Like these really really young guys, like way closer to your son's age than
Yes.
to mine. You know what I
Yes.
mean?
Yeah.
Like the
Yeah.
guys that are coaching, the Doc Rivers are coaching, right? And he was talking about how they checked out, but like that's a group. It's mostly black guys. Like that's a group that we should be able to resonate with all this. Like they
Mhm.
don't want a police state. Like they don't want, like they don't care. They don't want. They're not caught up in all the MAGA, signaling, but they weren't. They didn't feel engaged by whatever the pro democracy movement was offering, right? And I think that, like, thinking about reaching those groups feel much more attainable than like thinking about how to reach whoever's listening to Charlie Kirk or whatever.
Yeah, and I even think about, pro-democracy suggests that the other side is anti, and if you haven't successfully convinced enough people, you're just shouting into the void. I even grapple with my descriptors. Like, what are we, right? We're ex-Republicans who vote for Democrats because the
Yes.
Republicans have been corrupted, and it's under the umbrella of pro-democracy, but I don't even is that what we should be calling ourselves?
Yeah, maybe not. I don't
I
know.
mean, I don't know.
Honestly, maybe not. And in part because also like back to the corners. I know this is the other thing I just have Chris Murphy on the mind because I think he's been so good on all this, and
Me
I was
too.
just talking to him, and it's like we didn't really come up with an answer to this, but he
Mm,
was talking about how the Democrats have to fight fire with fire more, which is
for
something I agree
sure.
with, right? Which means at times, maybe not being as respectful to the traditional norms. I feel like just the redistricting is one example. It's supposed to happen every 10 years, but if the Republicans do it, then the Democrats should do it too. Okay.
Right.
I agree with that. Like the Democrats do need to be more aggressive. The threat is very real. On the other hand, if you're calling yourself the pro democracy movement and then simultaneously you're arguing, well, we might need to cut a few corners here to combat it, then are you making yourself seem like a hypocrite, right? I think that's a really tough question. I don't know, and I think that that kind of whoever emerges and I think that there's no rush to find someone to emerge
Mhm.
to lead the kind of opposition to Trump. I might need to kind of define the coalition in a way that's a little bit different. I mean, say what you want about Trump, he's good at the hat. I don't. I really. I keep define the "Make America Great Again," America First. Like it's graspable in a way that pro democracy kind of isn't. And I like my biggest worry going into the election. I always come back to this. I was interviewing James Carville like 3 weeks out, and the documentary was coming out about him, and they went back to the old whiteboard about what the three things were for Bill Clinton: change versus more of the same, et cetera. It's the economy, stupid. And I was like, "What's Kamala's three things?" And I don't think anybody knew, right? Like, everybody could have come up with different stuff. Nothing against Kamala. I thought she ran a pretty good campaign in a tough uh, environment. But I do think that's a problem, right? Like, is our hat pro democracy? Probably not, right? If you're going to try to reach the Doc Rivers people, you know what I mean? Like, that
Right.
we're talking about, the disengaged 20 something. If I was somebody that's thinking about running in 2028, which I'm not, that would be what I would be spending most of my time thinking about right now. Like, and not all the other stuff. Like, what is on the hat? Like,
What's on the hat?
what is on the chalkboard, like what is something that's graspable that cobbles this whole thing together?
Do you think 2024 sort of killed the consultant?
You would think so, but they're like, what's something that never died? Cockroach. Like I would have thought 2016 was. I remember, Nicole, when like I was in such a dark place after the 2016 election. You had to work. I didn't at that point. So I was just like reading sad fiction and watching sad movies. I was like keeping the shades drawn in my room. And my friend was at that Harvard IOP thing that they do after the
Yeah.
election
I
every
went.
year.
You went. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So he had a, he was one of the Harvard whatever, like student leaders, and so
Yeah.
they gave him a little apartment which had an extra bedroom. And he's like, "Get out of your room, come up here." He's like, "We'll have some drinks. Like, we'll go to the Harvard basketball game. We'll go to this stupid conference, and like it'll get you back into society." And I was like, "Okay." And I went there and I sat there and watched all these consultants on the stage talk about the 2016 election and like with their great ideas for what we should do and what we did wrong and what. And I'm like, you guys are like this is such a farce. It was like
Mm.
Donald Trump won the election with a golf caddy and like a former model that was his PR person and like the Corey Lewandowski, the worst like the last consultant on the market, and
Yeah.
he won.
Yeah. And
And it's like he didn't
Manafort.
even
Yeah.
run ads.
And Manafort was being paid by like Putin allies.
Yeah,
Yeah. I
right.
mean, it's like
He didn't even run
ludicrous.
ads half the time,
Yeah.
and it's
Yeah.
so I was like, anyway,
And
I don't.
Jared and
I could not be
his
more down on a
son-in-law.
consulting
Yeah.
class
Yeah.
if I tried.
What is your pre-political Tim Miller story? What's the Tim Miller story? The baby Tim Miller story?
There kind of isn't a pre-political Tim Miller. I just loved it from the start, in ways that probably ended up getting me into trouble as I got into it in the book. But like I remember, so we moved to Denver when I was in 5th grade. So it would have been one of the Clinton elections, Clinton Bush, and I bet my grandmother, my parents weren't really into politics, but my dad's mother really was, and she was a big Republican. And she was like, she loved George H.W. Bush. And I was like, I don't know. I had the insight of a 5th grader who doesn't know anything, and I was just like, I don't know. The other guy with the saxophone looks cooler. And I think he's going to win, actually. And so we bet $1. We moved to Denver during the election. And then when Clinton won, she sent me my dollar. I remember like I had it in my room. And I don't know. There's something about the competition of it. I always liked sports, but I was a late bloomer, so I was never good at sports as a kid, and so it kind of got like it scratched my competition itch. But and I started volunteering for Bill Owens when I was like 15 and a half and had a learner's permit and looked 12. Like I literally didn't grow facial hair until I was 19. I grew in college. It's the weirdest thing about me. Like if I meet somebody from middle school that I haven't seen in years, they'll be like, "You're tall," is their response to me. Because like in 8th grade, I was like 5'4". Like I grew. So anyway, when I was interning for Bill Owens back then, who was running for governor of Colorado, like people would ask me like, "Are you Bill's nephew? Like who's your dad?" Like, they refused. Like, it was like ridiculous that this child is like working on the campaign. And so anyway, there really isn't a pre-political me. I was into that part of it from like middle school.
So when I started in politics, I applied for a job with a Democrat and a Republican in California. I just wanted to be in the arena. I just wanted to be in the game. Was it Republicans for you or was it politics?
Yeah, it was politics and it was Republicans for me. But kind of in a soft way. I mean, like, it's like so quaint, like the things that got me into being Republicans. Like, literally, the Dems in my life will like roll their eyes to see this, but like, I liked the idea that we were a shining city on a hill and people wanted to come here in America. Like that was what drew me to the Republican
Yeah.
stuff. Like I have a distinct remember of being in high school and being so mad at Clinton over Elian Gonzalez, and just being like, that poor boy, like wanted to come. And I kind of like, to be honest, I tell the story. I need to go back and read the details because I kind of don't remember all of the particulars of it. But it's like, but to me, it was like a morality story, kind of like the El Salvador thing. It was like this boy was fleeing communism and wanted to come here, and like we sent jackbooted thugs in to get him. Like no, like wrong, like with weapons. No, like that's not
Sent
America.
him back to Cuba. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, that's not America. So it was that. All that said, though, my neighbor was friends with Bill Owens, which is how I got that job. I was always a moderate Republican from the start. I mean, like literally in that first campaign in 2000, I've told John Kasich this when I see him at the MSNBC Green Room. And I was like, I was for Kasich, I was for McCain. And so like, had things been different, right? Like had my neighbor been a consultant for some conservative Democrat, which there were at that time in Colorado, like quite a few, Ben Nighthorse Campbell or something.
Hmm.
Maybe I would have gone that, you know what I mean? Maybe I would have just gone up that route because it did quickly become about like, I like the politics, I like the campaigns, and I think that did end up getting me into trouble. But I just think that's very common in our era a little bit, which is so different now, obviously.
Well, but it's the oldest story, right? It's you're looking for your tribe, you're looking for
Yeah.
community, you're looking for your people. And I think we both found that in Republican
Yeah.
politics. And it's what, I mean, I think you write about heartbreak, which is what I felt when Trump took over the party and I saw it literally fracture my friend group. I mean, Trump 1.0 had a ton of, normal Republicans in it. There were
Yeah. Yeah.
normal Republicans that I knew at the Justice Department, lots of them, um, all of them interested in telling some members of the press how they were protecting, the rule of law in 1.0. In the White House, there were normal, formerly
Yeah, sure.
normal. At the Pentagon, there were normal people. I mean, what's so, I think, difficult to articulate is how far from anyone normal the second administration is. There's no one that would have ever had a job and that's the point. So I'm not even insulting
Yeah.
these people, right? This is the point.
They wouldn't have
But
wanted a job,
they would have wanted a
right?
job,
Yeah.
right? But the idea of sort of belonging, um, I think is what I wanted out of politics and what I got out of politics. I think what you create and I think what you build, and I think this is special about you, but also atmospheric at everyone at the Bulwark is a new community. And I wonder if that was intentional or if you feel that or if you feel how powerful people's connection is to you.
Yeah. I do feel it. I mean, it's really true. Just really quick as an aside about the community thing, and something to be conscious of in our new communities that we're building is you kind of part of community and belonging is that like you want to belong so bad you project stuff onto people. Like way before Trump, my first disappointing moment of being like, I don't know, maybe this Republican community isn't right for me was I was kind of under the impression that everybody was faking it on gay marriage. I don't know what made me do this. I think it was part of my coming out process, but I literally went and polled the office. I just went to everybody in the McCain 2008 office in Iowa. So it was probably a little different headquarters, a little more liberal, but in Iowa. And I was like, are you for gay marriage? And it was 1 out of 20 or something like that. And in my head, I was kind of like, I assumed it was going to be 18 out of 20,
Right,
like so
right,
you
right.
project things onto people,
That you
that
want,
you
yeah.
want. So anyway, back to the now community. I do feel it and I appreciate it. And I think that like it's some of what was intentional initially because I don't and this is not like whatever, a great charity or whatever. Like one thing that I did just because I felt like I needed to do it was if somebody came to me that like worked at the RNC or somewhere and during that period between 2016 and 2020 and was like, I need out. Like I can't support this stuff anymore. Like I was running Underground Railroad out of that baby. Like we were hiring people, and I had Sarah Longwell who does a bunch of other stuff outside of the Bulwark. I had her hiring people for stuff and other friends, and I felt that, and like I said to her, I was like, we need to do that. Like include people that are part of our initial group of expats, like in this, and out hear from people a lot of times, particularly young people that were like, I'm on campus and I don't really feel like I'm a Democrat yet, but like these MAGA Republicans are crazy. And, I'd always give them free subscriptions, right? Like, come and do it. And like, you come to the events, you can come. And so we did try to, create that initial group, but it's sort of like has ballooned so far beyond that. And I wish I could say that like I consciously tried to like cultivate a community with people because we have a ton of people who are far left Democrats and they kind of like it when I say something they don't like because they're like, okay, good. This is normal. Actually, I can
Right,
disagree with this guy that I listen
right.
to and not think he's a bad person and vice versa. And then we have a ton of like center left Democrats who think that maybe the party's gone a little kooky in certain areas, but like are mostly, pro democracy, so to speak, liberal. And so, and when you go to our events, it is like you can just feel it on people, just like the relief when they talk to you. Like they're so excited to like meet other people and talk and hang out everywhere after, and new friends are meeting. And so it is palpable that it's more than just like a media outlet where like you go to
Hmm.
see your favorite podcaster and then you go home, right? It's not that. Like it's very much a hangout and maybe not everybody's aligned on everything politically, but there's this common thread, and that I think I built kind of organically. I don't know, maybe I did something, or Sarah did something that I don't, but it wasn't like we had a meeting about it. It did kind of develop.
Was your daughter aware of what you do, or did she sort of stay
I
out of
don't
it?
know. I need advice from you on this, on having a 13-year-old, because she's pretty checked out, I think, for a 7-year-old of a person like this, like unfamiliar. Like we don't really talk about it like around her. I don't really talk about it to her. I don't have, no offense, like cable on, right? Like I'm listening to stuff. Like I
None
listen
taken.
to, yeah, I listen to the shows. Like I'll listen, like if I'm not on, I'll listen to what you guys do in my ears, and like I'll like kind of parent and listen and cook and listen. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
But it's not on, so she's not getting ambient Trump talk, right? And so, when we took down the Kamala sign, she asked why. We told her. When the Trump toys thing happened, I did have a moment of weakness when he said kids shouldn't have more than 3 toys. I told her about that. So I'm like, I'm going to indoctrinate
Kids only need 2 dolls.
2 dolls. I'm going to
Yeah.
indoctrinate you on that. So she asked, for folks who don't know, my daughter's Black, is adopted. My husband just told me before I came on here, she asked me about Black History Month today and why there's Black History Month. So like some of that, that stuff you just start to absorb and take in. And so I'm going to, increasingly kind of have to talk to her about it. And it was really one of the sad things about this Trump win. There are a million of them, so this one's kind of stupid and selfish. But I was like, had he lost, she wouldn't have really had to know about it. Like she would have known about it in the way that it's history, like in the way that I know about George Wallace or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like now, like she'll be 11 when it's over, God willing. And that, that's, so we're gonna have to deal with it. I don't know. How do you deal with it?
So when COVID started and I was anchoring from home, we turned off all the TVs and we kind of never turned them back on. And my son, by 13, you kind of go from never talking about it and thinking they don't know anything to they open their mouth, and even though you've told them nothing, you realize they know everything.
Right.
And I'll protect all of his prerogatives and privacy, but they're good at sifting through what's bullshit. And so I would say, at one level, don't worry. But at the other, I would, there's so much history, right, to teach a young kid. My son had all of the Who Was books, and, by the time you make it through all of the history, you can sort of put this moment, I'd say you have time, but never lie to her would be my only advice.
It's good advice. It's good advice for parenting and podcasting.